Hello and welcome to GatherVerse News Unscripted, your home for humanity-based tech journalism. I'm Priya David Clemens. I'm the executive producer of the show and your host today, and I am working from home. As I'm guessing many of you also are, since the pandemic, work from home has skyrocketed 6 times higher than it was in 2019 before the pandemic. Today, about 30% of all of us work from home. At the same time, we're in a world that's becoming ever more interconnected globally. So we use different platforms to communicate online. Many of us are familiar with things like Zoom, but there is an entirely different class of online communications and interaction for work and socializing. And these are virtual worlds. And we're going to take a look at one of them today. Here's an inside peek at the world of Verbella.
Welcome to Verbella, where you can be remote, yet connected. Verbella builds virtual worlds and campuses, complete with offices, auditoriums, meeting rooms, classrooms, event spaces, even a soccer field. We enable you to bring together groups of any size, from anywhere in the world, in a virtual environment to work, learn, engage, and socialize. Want to travel in true immersive style? Take the subway. Click on any of the numbered stations on the map to teleport there, then walk up to street level and continue your journey. Now that you've gotten started with Verbella, imagine how a virtual world like this can transform your next meeting, event, class, or gathering. We created Verbella to empower your organization and its people to be connected and seize every opportunity. Ready to work? Ready to learn? Ready to connect? Be ready for virtually anything with Verbella.
So, as you can see, definitely many steps above Zoom. And this is a platform that has been worked on for more than a decade. We're going to be joined now by one of the co-founders, Alex Howland, PhD. So maybe I should call you Dr. Howland. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Priya, thank you so much for having me. And Alex is great.
Okay, I'll go with Alex. Alex, tell me about why you came up with the idea for Verbella and what sort of companies are using this workspace?
Sure, absolutely. I came up with Verbella when I was pursuing my PhD in organizational psychology. So I actually don't have a gaming or software background. I actually have a background in psychology. And most of my classes were on in person, but I was taking a few online and was just really finding the experience really lacking. And here I was learning about things like diversity and inclusion in our global economy, but yet I was working on these flat 2D screens, mostly asynchronously, not actually engaging and learning with the people from around the world. So really saw virtual worlds and virtual reality as a platform to bring people together from all over the world and actually build some community, whether that's in an education standpoint from doing simulations and activities in the environment to just meeting and being together in these distributed places that can really support community with their distributed nature and their sense of being immersed together despite being many miles apart.
Yeah, that is interesting because when you get into these virtual spaces, it's amazing how much you do feel a sense of connection with those that you're in the space with, even though you are many, many miles apart often. People that you may not have ever even met in person or even face to face online and kind of this real face that we have. What is that about? And then, yeah, tell me about who's in these worlds right now.
Yeah, well, there's the importance of presence, this feeling of being together. And being in these virtual environments, I often compare it to reading a book or watching a movie. Right? When you read a book, you're looking at the black and the white on the paper, but really you get immersed in the story and you're there. You're really immersed. And similar thing happens in the virtual world. When you're across from someone's avatar, you actually feel like you're physically in the room with those folks. So it's that really sense of presence and togetherness that's pretty powerful. There's also 3D audio, meaning that many conversations can be happening in this environment synchronously, asynchronously, all happening at once, whether it's a dozen or 20 dozen conversations one-on-one to thousands of people in an auditorium, very flexible in types of engagements that can be happening here, whether they're scheduled or not. We have a number of large companies. We focus predominantly on the enterprise, although we have a number of great universities like Stanford and MIT and ASU using some of our platforms. Most of our customers are in the enterprise space, and they're large multinational organizations who are really grappling with what does return to office look like? Do we stay fully remote? Even if we come back to the office, we have buildings and team members from all over the world. How do we build a united culture amongst our folks from all over and give them this sense of presence and togetherness? So working with companies like PwC and VMware and Fujitsu, eXp Realty, our now sister company, they're using the platform for a number of reasons, typically related to some element of the employee experience journey. Might be recruiting, might be onboarding, it might be events with leadership or just events in general, or they might actually be using the platform as a replacement for brick and mortar, which is
and
maybe a little mind-boggling.
I just want to connect what you're doing with what we're seeing on the screen right now, because right now we're not seeing that enterprise space in the same way that we think of it. We're seeing Waterfront in France. So tell us a little bit about why we're looking at images.
What is going on here? We're really excited to be headed to the Cannes Lion event in 2 weeks now, end of this month, with our partner PwC. And we will be there physically in the south of France, but we also worked with PwC to create this campus that you see here. For those who can't actually attend the event live, they'll have an opportunity for people to attend virtually, and we'll be streaming a lot of the things that PwC and other events will be happening in person to a virtual audience. So again, we're thinking a lot about inclusivity and getting people involved who might not otherwise be able to get involved. We want to bring the south of France to you if you can't make it there.
And when it comes to inclusivity as well, you are not restricted to only clients or users who have a set of virtual reality goggles. This is a platform that you can access on your phone.
Yes, we're really excited about virtual reality and the potential for virtual reality. But we have people, believe it or not, who go to work 40 hours a week in this platform. And the state of where virtual reality or XR hardware are at, I don't wish upon anyone, being in the environment for 40 hours.
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Right. And we also think about who actually has these headsets at this point, right? So we think a lot about, inclusivity and getting people in without any need for any special hardware or equipment. And again, what we find is the immersion is almost as strong in the sense that, again, you really feel connected with the folks you're with in the environment, but you're still aware of your surroundings. I personally work from multiple monitors, so I'll have Verbella up on one monitor. If I'm working on a Word doc or something, I'll have that going on a separate monitor as well. So I can be physically with my team in the virtual world, as well as getting the things I need to be done individually as well.
So Verbella, would you say it's in the metaverse? Is that a word that you use?
It's funny. I've been in this, for over 11 years now, and yeah. I certainly wasn't using the word metaverse a couple of years ago. Obviously, we have been the last couple of years, and I think we're a part of the broader concept of the metaverse. But truthfully, whether we call it spatial computing, virtual worlds, XR, the metaverse, I really think about people at work and how can we add value to individuals, teams, and organizations. And if we can provide these tools to really improve the work life and really the life of people by giving them the best of both worlds of being in the office and working from anywhere, then we're doing our job. our job right. And if we can help organization build better cultures amongst their people from around the world, we're doing our job right. So whether we want to call it the metaverse or XR or whatnot, I don't have a strong opinion on. Really care about driving value for our users.
Yeah, the other term that you mentioned was spatial computing, and that's one that Apple used when they made their big announcement this week. And speaking of inclusivity, $3,500 price tag on those Vision Pro goggles is not something that most people are going to be running out to get. Maybe there's some enterprise use cases, but I'm curious about your thoughts of where we are in this industry right now. You've been in it for more than a decade,
Yeah.
but it's still pretty nascent. Where do you see us in terms of the trajectory of growth of spatial computing? What does Apple's entry into this industry mean? Where do you see us in 5 years?
Right.
A lot
I'm
of
super
questions.
a lot of questions. I'm super excited that Apple's in. You know, we had a lot of excitement around the metaverse last year. Probably too much. You know, too much hype. I think even when Zuckerberg, started talking about it, he spoke about, this will be a 10-year journey. And I think the media and the general public was like, okay, that means next month, right? And really, this is going to be a long journey. I've been doing it for 11 years, and it feels like we're still kind of at the starting line. What we're doing is hard. In a lot of ways, we're augmenting and trying to create parity in these digital worlds as the real world. And the real world is an incredible, amazing place that's quite complex. So I think the journey is going to continue to be long. I think thinking about five years, it won't be as odd to think about someone going to work in a virtual world with an avatar. Many of the folks listening probably have children, or maybe themselves spend a lot of time in their social time in being social in games, in things like Roblox and Fortnite, those sorts of things. So I think the current generation won't find this quite odd at all. They'll find it quite the norm. And then we're going to see a lot of things get better in the ecosystem. We've seen a number of Apple's first generation devices that we look back at now and kind of laugh. But then if we look at the trajectory of where those devices have gone since those first generations, it's quite incredible. And we need serious investment in this space. And the large companies like Meta and Apple are the right companies to be putting those serious investments in hardware. So software creators like ourselves can leverage that hardware down the line. As 5G continues to get rolled out, there'll be benefits in terms of connectivity there. So in the last 12 years, we've seen the infrastructure that's needed to make this possible get a lot better, and we'll continue to see that improve. If you look at Verbella today, it looks somewhat cartoonish, not as good as your graphics on the Xbox or the I'm not a gamer, whatever other hardware device you have specifically for gaming, can really support really robust graphics. Again, we want to be inclusive, so we have graphics that can be run on computers that employers are providing their employees without the need for any special equipment. But those things will continue to get better. So graphics will be able to get better. Avatars will look more and more like yourself without being creepy, where a lot of the attempts end up now. And a lot of the interaction, the engagement between the virtual tools and the tools that you use on a day-to-day basis will be really well interconnected. So it will be a real seamless experience.
When you talk about investment that's needed in the industry, you're right. We are seeing Apple put money in. Meta has obviously put money in and been very highly criticized for the amount of money that they've put in and quote unquote wasted, or lost. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's really the right way to look at that, because as you're saying, it is a long-term play. But there's been a lot of concern about a metaverse winter, that there isn't as much funding as there used to be. What's your perspective from the enterprise space in terms of investment into the infrastructure? Who are the players who are still in the game?
Yeah, I think there's actually probably still a lot of investment going on. Maybe not quite as much as last year, but we're still seeing new startups with pretty good funding behind them come along, as well as the large players. Good example of Apple, of the public not really knowing the billions that they were putting into their headset. I'm sure some of the other really large companies are doing just the same right now that we might not all be aware of. So I think that's important in good. I think what it's going to take, and maybe what's also unique about us is we're the only group, I believe, that has built a multi-billion-dollar business with a group that's operating completely in the platform. Our sister company, eXp Realty, has grown from 1,000 agents to 89,000 agents on the platform. Fastest growing real estate company in the world, market cap of over $3 billion. Are profitable, unlike the other big real estate names, and they operate entirely in the virtual world. That's where their staff goes. That's where they support their agents. It's where they hold their investor calls and in their board meetings. So they see the potential, the economic potential of being able to compete well against competitors by saving on brick and mortar and actually operating in these environments. What's also unique about that group is they've actually won Glassdoor's best place to work the last 6 years running. So one of the first companies to really lean into these technologies and run their full operation there, and they're getting really, really great results. So I think we'll see dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of those in the next 5 years, and we hope to be a part of a good number of them.
You've also been working on how people show up in these digital spaces, what their digital persona or identity is like, and how they present themselves to others. Tell me about the evolution of creating avatars within Verbella.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, creating avatar system is difficult. It takes a lot of investment and a lot of thinking about, again, who's going to be using these, where will they be located, how many of them do you want to be together at once, and what is the use case? In our case, it's enterprise use case for the most part, and education. So we want our avatars to be professional. We also want them to be representative of the global user base that we serve, because many of our clients are multinational global organizations. So we really think that the avatar needs to be representative of the user base and in its ability to have flexibility to let people self-express, and show up how they want to show up, as well as have ability to have an identity exploration, right? If they want to look just like themselves, you can do so, or you can be someone different but yet still professional and explore that identity a bit. We also need to make sure we don't kind of creep people out. So there's something called the uncanny valley when you try to make avatars look just like people but don't get it just right. Again, some of the commercial video games these days are making really, really good avatars that look a lot like the individuals, but they're putting many millions of dollars, and again, they have the hardware to run it at those high details. We've purposely taken kind of a stylistic approach where we don't try to look just like the people. There's a level of playfulness. We think a lot about things like psychological safety and how do we let people show up in a little bit of a lighthearted type way, in a way that isn't going to creep you out. And again, knowing that, if we tried to make them really realistic right now, we couldn't run with many avatars in the environment on the hardware that we want to run. So we've tried to really be representative and give people a lot of controls and the things that they can adjust, so we can really represent a global diverse audience. While still being inclusive to many different devices and internet connections in different parts of the world. So our system, you can select an avatar in 5 seconds if you want, or if you want to go in and do heavy details, might take you 12 or 15 minutes to set up. We have people who change their clothes once a year, and people who change their clothes twice a day. So lots of variability there as well. And this new system is really the foundation to continue to build off of. We want to add things like facial animations, continue to build on the diverse clothing wear that that we have to offer, as well as different accessibility representation in the
Alex,
environment.
there's a concern that there's a generational divide between those who can easily adopt this technology and those who are a little older and didn't grow up with it and don't feel as comfortable getting into this world. But the work that you're doing is in the enterprise space. So you're talking about people who are in their not just 20s, but 30s, 40s, maybe 50s, right? Who are using these platforms. What do you find is the truth when it comes to generational differences in adoption of this new technology and entering these spaces?
First, I'll say for our sister company, EXP Realty, I think their average age is about 55. So not the youngest average group. So it does vary.
Yeah.
What's really important is to think about ease of use for these platforms. So people coming in can navigate with their mouse or the arrows on their keypad and try to make it super simple. A lot of the tools are very similar to the tools that you might see on platforms like this, or your typical, your Zooms or your Teams, in terms of turning on your mics or sharing your camera, those sorts of things. So try to make it super easy, and the onboarding process ends up being pretty quick. I think you see a lot of resistance to the look and feel, judging the book by the cover. And it's typically when the user gets in the environment and has their first engagement with other people that the aha goes off. And they realize this isn't about the cartoony nature of the environments that you see, but rather the community that you can be a part of in these areas. And if the worlds are empty, they're not all that much fun. They're fun when there's a lot of people roaming around, many different meetings and activities going on, and you see the versatility of the type of communication and community that can happen in here is far greater than what can be done on 2D platforms.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
Alex Howland, the co-founder and president of Verbella. Have a great day. All right, and have a great weekend, everyone. Come back and join us on Monday when we will be taking a look at what's happening on the ground in San Francisco and how people are responding to all the new tech that's coming their way and if they're going to be using it or not. ChatGPT, the new Apple headset. How much are people really saying, even here within the San Francisco bubble, how much are they saying, yes, I want to use it, I'm adopting it? And how much are they going, still thinking about it? That's Monday's story. We will have a couple of our reporters for GatherVerse News on the show to share what they found out down on the ground in San Francisco this weekend. That's it for us today on GatherVerse News Unscripted. See you Monday. Have a great weekend.